So it's the start of another week. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. It's also on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. You can catch us live on DSTV channel 421, GoTV channel 144. This is Joy News, fearless and credible as well as independent. Don't forget about that. This afternoon on The Pulse, Works and Housing Ministry deploys fact-finding mission to Angloga and other coastal communities ravaged by last Sunday's tidal waves.
South Municipal Director and his men were on ground. They helped those who cannot sleep in their homes anymore because of the way.
Well, stay with us as we bring you updates from the community, plus hear from the National Disaster Management Organization on what they're doing about the situation. Also, Ghana Online Drivers Union set to withdraw their services in less than 24 hours as they accuse ride-hailing apps Uber, Bolt and Yango of unfair charges and practices. Don't forget that they will join us to share their concerns, and members of Parliament described as problematic a ruling by the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, that allows MPs to be marked present on the floor if they are within the precincts of the House. So what does this actually mean for the minorities suit challenging the approval of the e-levy? We'll find out here on The Pulse. My name is Blessed Sogna. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities Digni Lu, Affordable Safe Sanitation. This afternoon, we're streaming live on YouTube and all of our social media handles. Feel free to join us at JoyNews on TV. Tweet at us with the hashtag. The hashtag is The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sogna. Thanks for choosing us. Well, so this afternoon, the Ministry of Works and Housing has actually deployed a fact-finding mission to Angloga in the Volta region and adjoining communities there after tidal waves ravaged these coastal communities while cutting the road networks leading to the area. So there you see the distraction on your screens now. Similar incidents were also reported in other parts of the country, including Ada in parts of the Greater Accra region and then Shama as well in the western region. For now, we know that the National Disaster Management Organization says it is deploying relief items in support of the displaced victims. So we can now go on Zoom and speak to George AC, who happens to be the Director of Communications for the National Disaster Management Organization. He will be joining us shortly, but first listen to those on the grounds in the Volta region who are assuring that relief items will be provided to persons displaced by the tidal waves.
Any specific number, because the issue happened yesterday, and first of all, they must help people to safer places before any other things will be done. So right now, they are on the ground as we speak. I wanted to actually go there myself with my team this morning, but we'll be going tomorrow because we need to get some updates on it before we go there. So currently, we don't have any figures to give you, but hopefully, as within the day, they should be done with the assessment. The K2 South Municipal Director and his men were on ground. They helped those who cannot sleep in their homes anymore because of the way. They have to help them to safer places. So far, that is what they have been able to do, calculating the actual figures before we can know what actually should be done. But initially, the people weren't cooperating with my men. They were saying they don't need relief this time and that they really want the sea defense. That is the only thing they need. But in some few minutes ago, I spoke with the director and then he said they are now cooperating. So the information now is a bit scanty, but hopefully by close of day we should get proper details on the whole.
Well, so that's the assurance we got from NADMO as to the relief items that are being distributed in the area. Earlier, we know that a couple of months back, the MP for that place, Ketu South, Jifa Gomashi, raised a number of issues on the floor of Parliament regarding the sea defence projects. Fortunately, Jifa Gomashi is joining us live on Zoom to have a discussion on this. Thank you so much, Honourable, for your time. So I must assume that you're distraught by this incident that we're learning of once more.
Yes, thank you for using the right word. I am distraught. I'm devastated and totally heartbroken, actually.
But, well, we know that you earlier raised a number of issues on the floor of Parliament, questioning government's intent and commitment towards completing the sea defence project in the area. How far with that project, and have you received any updates on that particular situation?
Well, so as we speak, I have a question already filed, which has been admitted. I've seen it in the order paper for tomorrow. But if you recall, and I know that you just mentioned that I did ask questions on the floor of Parliament, and part of the answer that was given by the Minister for Works and Housing, Honourable Asen Sobuachi, was that we were to witness the configuration of the second phase of the defense at the end of 2021. But as we speak, there's no contractor on site. I also do recall that I requested that a temporary shelter be constructed for the people so that if it happened again, they will have somewhere they could go and find respite, so that those who bring some things for their upkeep can have a place where it will be delivered. As we speak, we still don't have even the site demarcated. We don't have the site demarcated for that temporary structure either. So to answer your question, as far as I know, there's nothing that has been done, not even ordinary things that NADMO usually will send to disaster-prone areas. Not even one single tent was provided from last year to date. So
at least, right. At least now we know that the ministry is indicating to us that a fact-finding mission has been deployed to your area. Even before that, many say that your residents...
Right. May I interrupt you for a minute?
Okay, right. That's
Is that
fine.
an admission that there was no such thing was done the whole of last year? The tidal waves hit us in March, in May, and in November. Are we now going to do that? Is that the case?
That's an interesting question you're asking there. Some experts also tell us, and some of the persons working within the ministry indicate that residents along the coastlines were warned to move away some years back, and yet many of them would not heed to these calls by the experts and officials working within the Works and Housing Ministry. Is that also coming to your attention as Member of Parliament for the area?
Were we told where they were to move to? When disaster hits a people, you don't leave the decision to move to a place of their choice. Is that the case? Did anybody give us a temporary place where they could move to? You see, we can't keep doing things in an ad hoc way. It's got to be properly structured. That there needs to be a place where they can move to, some kind of alternative sources of livelihood given to them, some stipends perhaps given to them for their upkeep. It's a whole year and nothing of the sort has happened. So why do we take delight in saying that they should have moved, they should move? Move where? This is where they have known their whole life. This is all they have done. Fishing is all they do. The alternative for them was to cross the border and go and sell some vegetables or buy some and come and sell in Ghana. And that too has not happened in 2 years. It's as if I'm singing to myself or I'm talking to myself all the time. It's as if the state has refused to hear what I'm saying. You can't say move without providing the necessary interventions, the necessary support for that movement. We have been neglected, and that's the fact. The community, constituency Ketu South, Kata and Anglo, that were hit by these tidal waves, have been neglected. And let's face that fact. Let's admit it.
Well, at least you have one opportunity now at redressing the concerns. What exactly are you demanding from the sector minister this time around in the question that you're filing in Parliament, which will be admitted tomorrow?
Well, the question that I filed about 2 months ago, which has now finally been admitted, was to ask him what the status of the sea defense is. Is it the case that he gave us the end of 2021 and we're in April of 2022 and we haven't seen anything? Should we be hearing something? Does he have any information for us to move forward on? Is that something he can tell me as the representative of the people, set and implement, so that when I go back to the constituency, I am empowered to go and share that information with them? That's what I want to ask him tomorrow.
Right, we'll see what will happen. But finally, we know that last year when this incident happened, you sought for support even from the office of the former president, John Mahama, who gave some relief items. What are you doing in the meantime as part of the emergency response to aid the relief process?
Thank you so much for mentioning that. And I hope that someone in his office or he himself is listening, so he knows I'm coming back to knock on his door again. But apart from going to knock on the door of former President Mahama, bless his heart for coming through for us last year, I've also just finished engaging the leadership of the Volta Caucus. I am hoping that I'll be able to catch Honorable Haruna when he gets up from the leadership seat, so I can engage him too on our side. But I've called, to be fair, I've called the Minister for Works and Housing this morning to ask him whether he has heard about the recent one. And he has spoken to me. I'm hoping by the close of the day, he and I will get opportunity to speak again and see what he's been able to gather and what he can do to support us. I've also taken the opportunity, because I didn't find him in the chamber, I spoke with the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to try and reach his colleagues who are empowered and mandated by the state to act swiftly when disasters such as this one happen. So I'm hoping that amongst the leadership of the government side, they too will be putting their heads together and get back to us as quickly as possible. But let me say that truly, I feel numb. I'm depressed. I feel really numb that I'm beginning to sound like a broken record to myself and to those of you who are sharing your platforms for me to be able to speak up for my people. It's too long. It's a whole year. Something should be said. Something concrete, something reassuring, something comforting has to be said by a state. And when I mention and single out His Excellency the President of the Republic, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, I've heard his people tell me that the ministers are speaking on his behalf. But may I remind them that His Excellency the President had opportunity to come to reach Sona, and he mentioned another community that has suffered a devastation. I demand that he pays attention to my constituency as well.
Is it not far-fetched when you create the impression as though the President is not concerned about your community?
You asked me a question what I want to do. I'm telling you what I want to do. What I want to do is to bring his attention that I've been trying to reach him for a year.
Right.
For a disaster that I cannot take care of but him.
And finally, just before we wrap up on this conversation, we're yet to hear from NADMO as to whether or not everyone has been moved into safety. But from the networks that you have on the ground, are you able to confirm or deny if everyone has moved into safety? It appears that we're having challenges, the connection there. But let's now get the perspective of the National Disaster Management Organization on this. In fact, they were on the ground since yesterday. George DC's Director of Communications for NADMO joining us now to provide us with some updates. So, George, it's a good time to be hearing from you. So what exactly is NADMO doing about this situation? Already we know that some of your men are in the area. What more do we know about getting persons into safety?
Yeah, thank you. We The parts of the water is receding. Some people have integrated with families at in safer places, and our men are still there helping them to go get to such safe areas. And so on the ground, our people are there and working in tandem with the opinion leaders in the community. As I speak with you, apart from the Volta region, you said it in your intro, the Sege area, we have the Aklabanya, and then Anyamam and Lulunya. These three communities have also been hit by the tidal waves, and then the Shama area. My Director General is leading a team to the Sege area today. That way, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear me?
Yes, precisely.
Yes, my Director General is leading a team to the Sege area, and then the Volta Regional Director and her team will also join the others, the district officers there tomorrow. And so definitely, as the Volta Regional Director said, by close of day, if we get the full assessment report.
George, if you're with us, so that's what you're doing.
That would then inform.
Right. So I get the interventions that you're carrying out, but then many would say this is not the first time we've recorded such an incident. Last year, similar places in these coastal communities were experiencing the same issue of tidal waves ravaging their properties. What reports have you issued, and what recommendations did you give to the Works and Housing Ministry to work on in order to deal with this perennial problem?
What you know and what the honorable member has also said, and the members of the community, as my Volta Regional Director said, they believe the ultimate solution is the construction and completion of the sea defense project. And that is what we also agree to that call. And so, yes, I think in the State of the Nation address, I did hear the President mention some sea defense projects will be carried out. And so we just hope and pray that the Volta region, Angloga, K2 South and Keta areas are part of it, so that those projects will be completed and then bring some relief to the people in the area. That is the ultimate thing that we're all looking forward to. And as a member of Parliament says, she's been talking to the Minister for Works and Housing. I believe she will also be serving as a catalyst to push for the continuation and completion of those projects. That will help all of us. But otherwise, in between time, it's going to be the management of the situation. And just from last year to now, almost 4 tidal waves hitting those communities. It's worrisome. And I understand the MP's distraught nature. It's worrying. We are also not happy with the situation. So based on our immediate assessment report, we will take the steps to see what support we can bring to the people.
But Judge, we'll talk about the specifics of this case, but correct me if I'm wrong. The perception out there is you're being reactionary. Is that the case? Even in spite of the fact that we don't even have the sea defense project in place, the belief is that you're being reactionary. You're not taking proactive measures to ensure that persons move into safety, move away from these coastlines.
Yeah, normally when you get the forecast told that maybe tomorrow or the next day there's going to be a tidal wave that is going to hit the community, then you can do that. Otherwise, a continuous admonition that people move to higher grounds or move away from those places. And as the MP said, the people are traditionally attached to the place. And so if you want to move them away, it's going to take a political decision by government that because of the danger or the risk that people are exposed to, government is moving all of them to a relocated place. If a place has been identified and then we are moving them, that would be a political decision. And that would not be a decision from NADMO. NADMO would then be managing it. And as we said, if we had the forecast that there's going to be tidal wave, our men would be...
But George, what specific actions, what specific actions are you going to take on? Yes, but George, what specific actions are you going to take on this very case that we're hearing of, the Adar case, the one in Shama, and then Anglogan, which is in the Volta region as well? Are you moving the people away from these communities?
Yeah, for now, we are helping them get to safer places. In fact, the Angloga area where Angloga, Keta, and Co, they are integrating with families in safer place. We've also made identified places, and I had a district chief executive on your network, radio network, saying they've identified a place and they are going to put up about 15 temporary two-room structures. I don't know whether it can accommodate the people, the numbers that are involved. That would be a measure that is important. But I agree with the MP. If we are able to get some tents to the place, my Director General is going to the Sege. From there, a decision will be arrived at to know whether we'll be getting tents to these places to provide temporary structures for them so they can live in those places in the meantime, whilst we do the right thing to give them the full support to get their livelihoods back.
Well, George, I'm afraid we'll have to leave the conversation here. I'll get back for some more updates, but we need to take you live to Parliament now. Members of the House have described as problematic a ruling by the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagmin, that MPs can be marked present even if they are within the precinct of Parliament. This is after the Adentan MP, Mohammed Adamo Ramadan, raised concerns over the name of the Domi-Kwabena MP, Sarah Adjua-Safo, being marked present in the votes and proceedings for last Friday. This concern sharply divided the MPs over the true implementation of the Speaker's ruling. My colleague Kwesi Parker-Wilson is joining us live with more. Parker, what are the implications of this new ruling that we're hearing of?
Well, I think there's confusion over this ruling, Blazer, because the members of Parliament themselves do not understand or do not have a better appreciation of the true interpretation of this ruling. Now, it came about when the Northern MP, Samuel Okoye-Blakwa, that was last Thursday, raised concerns about why the Ahanta West MP and, of course, the Chieftaincy Minister, Ebenezer Kojokum, was marked present in the votes and proceedings because he was not in the chamber. But the Speaker's response was that he saw the bedridden MP, of course, in an ambulance who was within the presence of Parliament. And so if he is within the presence of Parliament, there is nothing wrong registering him as present or marking him as present in the chamber. Well, I must say that day, the MPs did not really raise concerns about it until today, when the name of Sarah Adjua-Safo was captured in the votes and proceedings for Friday. And everyone knows, including the MPs, that the Member of Parliament for Domi-Kwabena is not in the country. She's not within that jurisdiction. So it's quite surprising that her name will be captured in the votes and proceedings. And so that raised the concerns as to whether the Speaker's ruling has taken effect, and that is why, even though she's not around, her name has been captured. So the Asawase MP, Muntaka Mubarak, in fact, indicated that his colleague MP, that is the Adenta MP, did not understand what the Speaker meant. But what the Speaker sought to say was that if you come and you are perhaps even within committee meetings and you fail to sign, they have to mark you as present. So signing is not necessarily important. So that was the point Asawase MP made, Muntaka Mubarak. But I must say that the whole West MP disagreed with him strongly. And that was where the divided opinion came out from. He said that he has been in this Parliament for quite some time now. And it will be a bit problematic if they are to follow the orders of the Speaker that if you are within the presence of Parliament. And Blessed, the presence of Parliament can be the car park. It can be the Job 600. So the whole West MP, Imani-GIZ, made the point that going forward, if this rule is supposed to apply, what it means is that MPs will come to Parliament, but will be in their offices and say they attended parliamentary sitting. So that wouldn't augur well for parliamentary proceedings going forward. And the Bia East MP, Richard Achampon, also added that one way to deal with this is to go electronic. So if you have some biometrics here, you clog in. If you are leaving Parliament, then you clog out. Then people will know that A MP, B MP were in the chamber as against C or D MPs who were not in the chamber. So that was some of misunderstanding that happened in Parliament or in the chamber. It is the hope of many of the MPs that the Speaker, when he assumed his seat, would bring some finality to this issue.
Parker, do we know how come Sarah Jasafo was recorded as present, particularly when reports are out there that she's not in the country?
Blessed, the majority leader, Oseche Mensah Bonusu, made the point that it could just be an error, just as about 8 NDC MPs were marked absent when, in fact, they were actually in the chamber. It's the same thing that happened. So even though she's not around, perhaps the table office could not collate the numbers properly or the names properly, reason they added her name as MPs who were present in the chamber. So it was an error that occurred, and that the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who at the time was presiding, directed the table office to ensure that the errors are rectified, her name be removed from the present list and add to MPs who are not present or who were not present in the chamber last Friday. And
do we have the proper records now? That has been the concern of the minority as to whether or not there were 274 or 275 MPs at the time the e-levy was being considered.
Well, so the table office would do all the necessary corrections, and Tuesday, unfortunately, tomorrow Parliament is rising. They are going on recess, so perhaps they would have to wait when they return from recess. That is when they can cross-check the updated record. The current vote and proceedings, as the Speaker of Parliament, you put it, is just a draft which can be corrected, and that is why on the order paper, the item 4 is always about correction of votes and proceedings. So if there are concerns about the votes and proceedings, it will be corrected and the table office would capture same. So it will not be ready tomorrow, but of course, when they return from their recess, I'm told that they're going to spend a little over a month. When they return, I'm sure the records will capture that.
All right then, Parker, bye for now. There's a lot happening in Parliament. The Speaker has also been commenting, and also the National Security Minister, Kandapa, is blaming Parliament's inability to hold public office holders accountable for the increasing rate of corruption-related activities in the country. Now, the menace has been cited as one of the issues which have the tendency to undermine the country's stability. Answering a question from the Boku MP, the minister indicated that corruption will persist until Parliament becomes effective.
Inept political leadership and corruption are some of the risks that really influence insecurity in our sub-region and of Africa as a whole. How is his outfit ensuring that this particular risk is reduced in Ghana? That's all I'm just asking.
Mr. Speaker, I think this is an issue that we probably will need some time to discuss. Corruption and the extent to which it influences terrorist attacks and extremist attacks. But, Mr. Speaker, under a democratic governance, the best way to stop corruption is to allow the accountability institutions to work. And Mr. Speaker, the most effective accountability institution is Parliament. If there is corruption, it is because Parliament is not stopping it. And it's a major issue that I believe we cannot do justice to it now. But if at another time the honourable member wants us to have a full-scale discussion on corruption and how to stop it so that it doesn't influence extremist attacks, probably it may be worth doing. But it's also worth pointing out that it's an issue that Parliament should be concerned about, because I believe the best way to solve the problem is to allow the accountability institution to handle it. And the main accountability institution in this instance is the Parliament, which approves the budget for the government to implement and which has the power to get the Auditor General to audit the accounts of government and to submit it to the Public Accounts Committee for scrutiny.
Well, so there's a lot more. The Transport Minister, Kweku Ofori-Asiamah, has also been in Parliament justifying government's decision to dismiss the former MD for Ghana Airports Company Limited, Mr. Yao Kwakwa. According to the minister, terminating the appointment of Yao Kwakwa was in conformity with the law. 2 months ago, we know that Mr. Kwakwa was dismissed amid claims of fighting the operations of Magdan Aviation Services. The minister was in Parliament to answer questions from the Adaklu MP Kwame Gavins Agboja on circumstances leading to the dismissal of the MD, rejected claims that the former MD's appointment was terminated for meddling in the affairs of Magdan Aviation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I said the termination of appointment of persons holding public offices are governed by appropriate legislation, and persons at Ghana Airport Company are not exempted from these legislations. Section 17 of the Labour Act 2003, Mr. Speaker, of 651, had made provision for notice of termination of appointment. Mr. Speaker, I also said that guided by this act, the letter that I signed on the 4th of March 2022 was issued without prejudice.
Some acts and what have you, but that is okay. But we know to sack somebody, the person might have done something, either wrong or right. That is why we want to know what has he done to necessitate the trigger of the act or the labor law or whatever. What triggered it? That's all what we want to know. Thank you.
I have said that my decision is conformed to a regulation within the Labour Act, which I acted. I don't think that I have done anything ultra-virus per the laws of Labour Act and Companies Law.
The circumstance leading to the untimely dismissal of the chief executive was in relation to some development at the airport between Magdan and the Ghana Airport Company, and Mr. Kwakwa insisting on right being done. Does the minister accept the view that the chief executive was dismissed as a victim of political victimization?
My good friend, the Honorable Minority Leader, made the assertion that the former MD suffered as a political victimization. Mr. Speaker, I reject it entirely. Thank you very much.
Well, the Speaker himself, Aban Bagbin, has been addressing the press. He says Ghana's football is suffering because of the dismissal of former GFA boss Kwesi Nyantakyi. Investigative journalist, as we know him, Anas Sarim Yao Anas, and his Tiger IPI actually indicted the former GFA president together with others in the number 12 expose. But according to the Speaker, the removal of Nyantakyi, whom he argues was the brightest spots in African football, also brought down the game in Ghana. Speaking after the swearing in the new executives of the Parliamentary Press Corps, Mr. Bagbin revealed that FIFA executives at a meeting questioned why Ghana had to do what it did to Nyantakyi, who was a colossus within their rank.
It is a force for progressive social change, unquote. Yesterday I was in Wa. In fact, this week has been very busy for me. I've been up and down the country, here and there, running around holding meetings. And I reminded, it's good, there's no doubt in being investigative, but when we were able to bring down Kwesi Nyantakyi, we also brought down Ghana football. That was one of the brightest spots at FIFA, which the French call Fife. And when I met the executives of FIFA and said I was the Speaker of the Parliament of Ghana, I said, what happened? Why did you people do that? That it was a dynamic addition. The value that he carried at their meetings, he was highly respected, and he was very influential, and Ghana football was up there. We thought we were only handling Nyantakyi. We didn't know we were handling the whole of Ghana. Senegal is up there today because the Secretary General of the whole FIFA is a beautiful young lady, and you can't beat her during elections. And she's the Secretary General of FIFA. That's the chief executive of FIFA. You see their stadium, you see their national team. So please, leaders don't stand alone. They stand for something that is symbolic of the country. Criticize us, correct your children, but don't break their hands or their legs. It will affect you. And that's where we are now. And people are calling for government to forgive Nyantakyi and bring him back to access. We're able to perform the wonders in Nigeria because of the new technical team that we put in place. They were able to gather the potential young players of future, and they were prepared to die for Ghana. If we keep this team for some time, I assure you, it's not just the FIFA games we are going to play. Ghana will be up there again. And that's one of the soft power of our country. That's why in spite of our size, our population, and the fact that we don't have critical exports, Ghana is in the minds and mouth of everybody in the world. So please, you either build or destroy. The pen again is mightier than the sword, and it is in your hands. Hold it carefully.
Well, so it's time to have this conversation. In the next 24 hours, you may have a tough time hailing a ride on Uber, Bolt, and Yango. This is because the Ghana Online Drivers Union has served notice it will be embarking on a 2-day sit-down strike effective April 5, 2022. The drivers attribute their intended action to the growing insecurity and attack on drivers, as well as the high service charges by the ride-hailing companies. So let's have a conversation on that and understand the concern of the drivers. Joining me now in studio is James Nilo Gamo, who's the Vice President for the Ghana Online Drivers Union. You're welcome to our studio, sir.
Thank you.
So we've seen this threat before. You've indicated somewhere last year, you did that last year, indicating that you'd embark on a strike. How serious is this action now?
Okay, so thank you very much. And regard to our viewers. Yeah, this very strike is a combine of all unions, both in Greater Accra, Eastern Region, Western Region, and Central Region. And we are embarking on this strike because of all our engagements with the app owners to get fair increase became in vain. And then we have no alternative than to embark on this strike. You see, we've went to boats, especially for them to increase the fare. We are all aware the fuel increments in the country, which is over 150%. But our app owners refuse to increase the fare just to entice the riders. But you know, there's a saying that a hungry man is an angry man. We are also looking at the side where the drivers have to render a good service to the riders. You see, the happiest the riders, the next time they can ride with us. So we are also doing all these things to render good service to our app owners, riders.
Right. But help us understand this. So if I'm an Uber driver, how does the operation happen? Is it the case that that the conditions are different for those who own the vehicles themselves and those who drive for other people?
Yes, exactly.
How are what's the dynamics like, and what are the charges?
Okay.
How does it really happen?
So not all the youth that have money to buy the car.
Okay.
So most of the cars belongs to a third party, which is the car owner. So you, the driver, goes for a car, use it on the app. After the week, you go and do a sales of 500 and 450. Some are doing work and pay, who are even doing more than 500 every week. And we end up not getting that at the end of the week. So you see that the drivers end up owing the car owners, especially those doing the work and pay. They can start the work and pay, and after some time, 1 month, 2 months, or 1 year, they will take the car back from the driver, and the driver becomes empty.
Right, and in fact, what you have on the screens now are the numbers. Your membership. Look at it. There are 8,000 for those doing both Uber and Yango here in Accra.
Yes.
That's a significant number. In Kumasi as well, 3,000. We have Western region with 1,000. Eastern has about 1,000. And then Central region there with also 1,000. So 1, 2, 3, 6. And then you have about 14,000 persons potentially that we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how, in terms of the numbers.
Yes, please.
So it's providing jobs for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Some would say you don't have a perfect job anywhere in the world. So why not manage the situation and make do with the terms and conditions that you have?
Thank you. You know, we've been trying to manage it all this while until the fuel price became unbearable. You see, first we do buy fuel 3 cedis plus per liter, but now we are buying 9 cedis plus per liter. And the app owners are still charging less than 7 cedis for a short trip. Meanwhile, a driver is driving more than 2 kilometers to pick up a rider and send that person to 3 kilometers, and he or she will be charged for 7 cedis, meaning that that driver has run at a loss. He has nothing to go home with. So these are the reason why we are calling on the government, both the riders, the app owners. Let's all come together and find the best way out to rectify all these things so that the drivers can also go home with something, because they are also a breadwinner.
So this 2-day nationwide strike that we're hearing of, it's taking effect tomorrow?
Yes, please.
So what would that mean for someone who would want to perhaps hail a ride?
Yeah, it's never our wish. It's never our wish to make our riders stranded. But we have no alternative than to embark on this strike. So we are just pleading with all our customers to side with us. Let's finish.
So 14,000 of you would sit down. You wouldn't work. You won't work.
Yeah, we are all embarking on the strike tomorrow. We are not working tomorrow and the next day.
But if you don't work, that will mean that your targets will be affected individually as well.
Yeah, either you work or not, you are not going home with nothing. So it's better you don't work to aim at something.
What's the current commission charge for those of you who are drivers? The ride-hailing apps, how much do they take from you?
So both is charging 25%, meaning if you pick someone in the app charge 10 cedis, both is taking 2 cedis 50% out of that. And per statistic, we are spending more than 60% on fuel on every trip, meaning that 6 cedis is going to the fuel. 2 cedis, 50% is going to the app owner. So you, the driver, you are left with nothing.
But James, so let's be fair here. Could it not be the case that, well, it's rather a case of the fuel prices and not necessarily this ride-hailing apps that are operating their business? They give you a deal, you take the larger part of the deal, and yet you're complaining that they are not being fair to you.
Yes, I agree with you. The fuel price also counts. Yes, it's true. But the fuel price determines the price in the market. You know, if you go to market now, everything will be increased. Even the country in which we are in have increased the fare 15% previously, which they are looking at to increasing it again. But we've not benefited from that.
So the 25% that you are asking for a revision on, at what percentage, in terms of rating, what rate will be acceptable to you as the Ghana Online Drivers Union for you to work with, and then to say we'll not go on strike any longer?
Okay, so Uber has reduced his one from 25% to 20%. But we wish we could have our commission fee 10% or 15% maximum.
That's what you want to work with?
Yes, please.
But well, that we don't have any confirmation as of now if the likes of Uber, Bolt, and Yango would do anything about your concerns. So that would mean that many commuters will be stranded tomorrow.
Yeah.
You're doing that for 48 hours?
Yes, please.
I mean, what do you seek to gain from a 48-hour sit-down strike, particularly when we know that, well, you'll be back after 2 days anyway?
Yeah. You know, this sit-down strike, as I said earlier, is not something we wish for, because all these riders that we've been picking are regular customers that we wish we could render service to their satisfaction. But things are getting out of hand. And you know, drivers are in the hospital, they can't cater for their bills. These app owners are not providing insurance, they are not providing security, they are not giving these drivers anything. If you are on a trip and something happens to you, it's your own case. They don't care. I'm
glad that you're bringing that up, because part of the concerns that you're raising in the communique that you've issued, you're also concerned about security for those who are drivers, those who are using the applications.
Yeah.
How dangerous is it becoming nowadays using the applications as a Bolt or Yango driver?
Yeah, because of lack of security measures put in place, criminals are taking advantage on that and harming our life. Why? You know, you can just go to the street side and buy a SIM card. To register for a rider app, you just need a number. And you can bear me that people can get SIM card by the roadside. So criminals will go for that SIM card, come and register for the app, request a driver, and take him to a lonely place and attack him. The other time, you saw what happened at Kumasi. They cut off a driver's head. The other time, they bent a driver. Life. Teshi, we can ask for Teshi every blessed week. They are attacking our drivers over there. Why? When we report to the police cannot trace them. Why? Because there's no trace. If they trace, they end up at the roadside. So we are calling on the government, and as well as the app owners, to put security measures in place to protect our life.
Okay, so let's explore some of these security measures that you're calling for. For instance, what will make the applications and the ride-hailing apps more safe and secure for you as someone who's speaking on behalf of over close to 14,000 drivers, potentially, looking at the figures.
Yeah, so we are looking at all the app owners to take enough details from the riders. One, like an ID, like Ghana card.
Okay.
So that if anything, we can trace. The police can use that Ghana card to trace the person. Two, we are looking at when someone is requesting, we should know where the person is going before we accept the trip. The other time, they took a rider to Nsawam and went to attack him over there. If the driver had known that these people are going to Nsawam, he would have rejected that trip. But because he has no idea of where the person will be going, he just accepts the trip. Sometimes you accept the trip, go to the person's pick-up point, pick up the person, start the trip before you get to know where you are going to. See, the other time, a woman slapped me because she's
you were personally affected?
Yeah, a woman slapped me.
Why were you slapped?
Because I said I can't go to Kofodia with her. She said she's going to Kofodia, and I said, no, please, I can't go to Kofodia because if I go, I have to drive back empty. If you can compensate me with something, he said, I'm not going to give you a dime. And before I talked, this woman said, we have been rude these days. And for that matter, she jumped on me and beat me up. I can't beat her back because I'm a man.
Well, probably because you're also a law-abiding citizen. We don't want to encourage violence here. But sorry for that. So now, if some reviews are to happen, what you want to have now is the ability to know where the trips are ending. Aside that, are there any other concerns?
Yes, we want to know where the person is going before we accept the trip because our life is in danger. Two, we want proper measures to be put in place to protect our life. When the rider is requesting, they should at least sanitize the person to make sure that this is the right person we are entrusting our driver's life into. We can't just give our life to anybody.
Okay, but giving the arguments you're making as a group, let's look at the alternatives, for instance. If it's the case, assuming without admitting that your Uber, Yango, or Bolt vehicle was a taxi, that would definitely mean that you are just open to anyone at all using your vehicles. At least these platforms take some personal information from those who are on the app. Are you questioning these details that they take from those who, hail the apps, the rights that
Yes, the details they take are not enough. If I'm a taxi driver and someone approach me to render a service, I'll look at the person well. I'll look at the person, sometimes try him to see his tolerance level before I go on trip with that person. But this one...
Are you sure about this?
Yeah, I've drove taxi before.
Okay, so this is personal experience.
Yeah, so if you stop me for taxi,
right,
I'll look at you, listen to your voice, your tonation, to see the kind of person you are before I accept your offer. But this one, someone is in his room. You don't know the personality, you don't know who he is. You just go and park before you realize the person is in the car. Let's go, start the trip. And you don't know the kind of person he is. And the app owner also can't trace that person. Neither can police also trace that person. How do we trust our safety?
Have you been able to engage these people, the management of the companies that run the ride-hailing apps? Have you been successful at talking, having a dialogue with them on how to improve and ensure efficiency within the system?
I've joined this service since 2016 till now. Never did Uber open his door for us, not even to use the journalist. Uber is never open to us. Whenever you go to Uber will say send them an email. If you go to Bolt, they said if you can't, stop the work.
That's what they tell you?
Yeah, they will tell you if you can't, go and find a way out. So the other time...
But this is a union with about 13,000 people. How come is it that you don't know the owners of the company, where their offices are? Because I know that when you're registering your vehicle, there are officials from these companies that inspect your vehicle and all of that, right?
Yeah.
So how come that it's becoming increasingly difficult to engage management of these ride-hailing apps?
So their policy is saying that they employ the drivers individually. So they are not recognizing a union. That's their policy, that they recruit drivers individually, not from the union. And we have also seen that, no, we can't approach or address this thing individually. So we came together to form a union. And they are not trying to recognize the union. So we've went ahead to join TUC. Yes, so this is the next line of action will be coming from TUC, because we've joined TUC, and then with TUC, I think we can push them hard.
Okay, so now that, and we'll be wrapping up shortly, but just as you're disclosing to us, the Ghana Online Drivers Union is now part of the TUC.
Yeah.
What's the TUC going to be doing about this in conjunction with your group as well?
Okay, so we have some procedures we need to follow before TUC can step in, which we are doing now.
What exactly are you doing now?
You see, there are some procedures we need to follow when you are joining TUC.
Right.
So we are about to finish with that. As soon as we are done with that, TUC will step in and then see what we can do from there.
Okay, then I'll give you the final words. And for those who are anxious out there, quite a lot of people use these applications. What's your message to them?
Yeah, so to our riders, it's unfortunate this is happening tomorrow and the next day. It's never our wish to treat you this way, okay? We apologize for the inconveniences. But to all the drivers out there, we are pleading with you guys that we should think of tomorrow, not today. Think of what will happen tomorrow if we don't do this, so that we all sit down tomorrow and the next day, park our car, and show our grievances to the app owners.
Well, James, I'm grateful that you've been able to join us. So that's James Nilo Gamo, Vice President of the Ghana Online Drivers Union. Thank you for joining us. This is The Pulse. Stay with us. When we return, we'll bring you some more stories. And you're welcome back to The Pulse. Now, have you heard of the Imani-GIZ Reform Dialogue? Well, this afternoon on The Pulse, we'll be telling you what it is and how beneficial it can be to you, our cherished audience out there. Joining me now, fortunately, is Dr. Theo Champo, head of Imani-GIZ Reform Dialogue. Thank you, Doc, for your time here on The Pulse. So what's the purpose of this Imani-GIZ Reform Dialogue, and what's the progress so far?
With your listeners. Over the course of the pandemic, about 2 years ago, Imani and GIZ, Ghana, actually entered into a partnership for us to host a series of events, which is basically trying to support and understand the issues of Ghana's business climate, and importantly, how we can find solutions to addressing them. So we had a first series of dialogues starting from November of 2020 into 2021, and there were 6 issues that we examined back then, all the way from understanding how COVID has impacted the Ghanaian business community, to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, to looking at the issue of business taxation, to things like business regulation and property rights. And then the last one we examined was on how corruption affects the business climate in Ghana. And in relation to that, we have decided to continue with the dialogue series. And this year, we're actually hosting 3 events to, again, deliberate on a number of the issues that continue to affect the
right. And the understanding we're getting is that this time around, what's happening tomorrow is that you're focusing on the theme macroeconomics and its related activities. How significant will that subject matter be?
Absolutely important, because the macro framework really underpins pretty much how businesses are undertaken, right, in any economy. And here, when we say the macro framework, what this really means, there are about 4 factors. We're looking at the real sector, so your manufacturing, agrics, and services industry. We're looking at the fiscal policies, the tax policies that government sets. We're looking at the monetary policies, so things like inflation targeting that the central bank sets, availability of foreign currency. We know of the issue of the CD to the dollar in recent times, and the balance of payments. So all of these collectively come together to shape the business, community in the country. And for tomorrow, we just want to provide a bit of a deep dive as to these issues and how they continue to, in a way, hinder, the overall business environment in the country, but importantly, of course, how we can actually reform some of these, policies to improve the investment climate.
Wonderful. It sounds good. But let's talk about the panelists, the keynote speakers, and those who would be participating in this very event.
Yeah, so we do have quite a number of speakers lined up for the day. We've got Mr. Kwame Pianim, who would be showing up. We do have the Deputy Minister of Finance, John Kuma, who would be showing up. We do have a lady, professor or a doctor from the University of Ghana, Priscilla Chumesi, who would be showing up. And then we also do have a representation from the wider business community as well, that would all turn up on the day as panelists or as invitees to the event. So we're really looking forward to having a very deep dive session in tomorrow, looking at how the framework or the macro framework allows us to attract both foreign and domestic private, capital.
A very packed event it will be, but obviously the experiences that will be shared, the synthesized information, policy briefs and recommendations. How do we know that you're going to be using these experiences that we're gathering from the dialogue in reforming the drive in Ghana?
Yeah, so we actually do have a framework, a monitoring and evaluation framework as part of this exercise. In the first one that we did, we were able to have some indicators that allowed us to track the extent to which the recommendations and policy proposals from those events were taken on board by the stakeholders that need be. And in a very similar manner, we are doing the same thing with this series of dialogues. So normally when we have the event, we would produce a press release. And then we also do actually have a detailed policy brief on the issue. And we have a series of engagements with the identified stakeholder organizations, including government institutions, to have a way of, supporting the reform efforts, and then we track that. Some are more like short-term, as in the issues, others to very much medium to long-term in nature, so you cannot immediately see the effect of, those policy changes, but we do engage with the stakeholders nonetheless.
Dr. Theo Champong, we are all upbeat about that event. Hope to see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Right then, we need to take you to some other developments. Government has actually set aside $25 million to upgrade some of the country's iconic historic sites to boost tourism and attract the needed patronage. An additional $45 million has been allocated to the sector to enhance skills training, improve access to tourist sites, among others. President Akufo-Addo announced this when he opened the Destination Ghana event in London to usher in a new drive to attract foreign investors to visit and explore Ghana. According to him, Ghana has an abundance offerings in the tourism sector for the world. As the country's eased restrictions following the COVID-19 outbreak, the president called on the world to choose Ghana and enjoy the beauty of the country.
It is expected that some 25 million United States dollars will be expended to upgrade some of our iconic sites, including the famous Elmina and Cape Coast castles, the Kwame Nkrumah Memorial Park, the Mole and Kakun parks, and cultural museums in Yendi in the northern region, Ejiso in the Ashanti region, Akropong in the eastern region, and Ho in the Volta region, under the Ghana Tourism Development Project, supported by the World Bank. Additionally, I'm happy to note the funds will be directly injected into supporting SMEs in the hospitality and beverage sector. I'm eagerly awaiting the expedited conclusion of negotiations with the World Bank, which is intended to culminate in additional financing to boost the tourism, arts, and culture sector. It is in this regard that the government recognizes and highly commends the partnership of the World Bank in supporting Ghana's socio-economic transformational agenda. I acknowledge the efforts of the dynamic country director of the World Bank, Mr. Pierre Laporte, in the Tourism Development Project, an initiative jointly implemented by the government of Ghana and the World Bank. This $40 million project is expected to position the tourism and hospitality sectors as key drivers of social and economic development. I want to invite you here in London and Britain, Europe, and the rest of the world to the center of the world, where longitude 0 degrees crosses latitude 0 degrees, where the bright sunshine enriches the quality of the skin and bodies of all, where music, dance, and culture not only create fun, but also excite the body, soul, and mind for spiritual growth. Indeed, I welcome you to Ghana, the center of the world, to enjoy our famed hospitality and take advantage of our favorable investment climate.
And now, former rector of GIMPA, Professor Philip Bonzi Simpson, is pushing for a change in the computer placement in the senior high schools across the country. He wants heads of schools to be allowed to admit students into their schools, just as authorities at the basic and the tertiary levels are allowed to. Professor Simpson was speaking at the Imani-GIZ Stakeholders Forum in Cape Coast. Correspondent Richard Kojonyako has more in this report.
The Imani-GIZ Forum is a forum initiated by the school, its old boys, the church, and other major stakeholders to think about the school and the educational system being run currently in the country. Former rector of GIMPA and an old boy of Imani-GIZ, Professor Philippe Bobonze Simpson indicated there was a need for an evaluation of the computerized school selection placement system, as the system does not take into account those whose contributions have made the school what it is now. Professor Bonze Simpson believes the system is unfair and destroying the traditions of the school, apart from the human interferences in the process that are putting many stakeholders of the school at a greater disadvantage.
If in Ghana, out of all the levels of school, it's only secondary school that there's computer placement, there is a time for us to evaluate it. Those computers who operate them, is it not human beings? Is it not human beings? The school authorities, the headmaster, should be allowed within a certain framework, a majority, of course, on merit. But there's a place for all students. There's a place for the church. There's a place for children of staff. There's a place, a small portion for protocol. The school authorities should be allowed within a certain framework to admit their own students. And who said when they were admitting their own students, they were admitting chaff? And who said when computer admits them, they are necessarily admitting geniuses? There's need for evaluation and even fanciful. And at a stakeholders conference like this, we can't make that case. Then indeed, Ghana is the poorer for it. But fanciful will make that case, and Ghana will be the richer for it.
Domain of Esika, the traditional area, Nana Kwabena Nkatia believes there is a need to overhaul the system so the values of the schools could be kept.
We are here to redream Infantsipim. In fact, it was some people's dream. We cannot go on having the old way of seeing things. We need a new way of seeing things, because we know as an institution, this school is challenged, just like most of the schools, educational institutions in the country are challenged.
The presiding bishop of the Methodist Church Ghana, Right Reverend Paul Kwabena, stated that the Methodist Church would continue to maintain their philosophy of a holistic education.
For us, we will continue to maintain our philosophy when it comes to the message of the gospel, where we give holistic nature, holistic information, and holistic education. We are not the church that looks just at one side of the individual or of the community, but we look at the totality of the person.
Headmaster of Infantsipim School, Reverend Ebenezer Edu, told the forum that government could not shoulder the burden in the school alone, and that there was the need for all stakeholders to come together. He enumerated some of the infrastructure deficits in the school.
Infantsipim is the oldest secondary school in the country, and as such, age is catching up with our infrastructure as well. A careful look or assessment of our buildings reveal that in about 5 to 10 years, we may have a huge challenge as far as our infrastructure is concerned. Some dormitory blocks, master's flats, and even the headmaster's residents are all crying for attention.
The Stakeholders Forum canvassed for the involvement of all major stakeholders in fashioning out a better educational system that could stand the test of time. Reporting for JoyNews, Richard Kwejonya-Akon, Cape Coast.
Well, let's take you elsewhere. The District Security Council at Elembele in the Western region has launched a full-scale investigation into a shooting incident which left one person dead and at least 4 others injured. This follows renewed clashes between some alleged illegal miners and security personnel at Nkrofo District Magistrate Court. The Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo-Dampare, was in town assessing the situation over the weekend. He says the police is determined to enforce the law irrespective of who is involved.
Rest assured, anybody, big or small, anybody, big or small, who is involved in this, one by one, where it has to be 2 by 2, where it has to be 3 by 3, all of them to the justice. There are processes and procedures for registering grievances and for grievances to be resolved. Nobody can hold institutions, individuals hostage for purposes of getting what they think belongs to them that they have not justified. So we came to make that point.
Yeah.
We came to make that point to let you be assured that everything that we need to do in terms of protecting every law-abiding citizen will be done. And everything that we need to do in terms of taking lawless people out of the society and for them to face justice will also be done. So at the end of the day, everybody knows that there's nobody who is about them. So we'll go and we'll engage the chiefs and the elders. We'll find opinion leaders and also engage them as we start the process of arresting each and every one of them. By day, by night, by dawn. We'll get the people who do that. So let anybody come forward and decide to be the person who wants to stop us from doing the right thing in terms of getting these people and bringing them to book. Don't even go there. Just leave it out. You can go to sleep on that. You can go to sleep on that. The rest is in your pocket.
Okay.
When we bring them before you, then you take the action in accordance with the law. But as to whether we will bring them, that is non-negotiable. And nobody can stop that process. Because we cannot encourage this for it to be a copycat approach in other communities, for people to think that you can mess up things like that and get away with it because of what? Somebody coming behind you and wanting to stop the will of justice. It is not on my watch. It won't happen. That I can assure you.
Well, let's talk about senior high schools because some of the schools are requesting expansion of facilities as new students report to school. Some senior high schools in the Ashanti region are requesting expansion of classrooms and accommodation facilities as the first-year students begin reporting for admission. Though some improvements have been recorded, the schools expect more for a comfortable teaching and learning environment. Nana Yaujima visited some of the senior high schools and now reports.
T.I. Ahmadiyya Senior High School, Kumasi, received 1,529 fresh students. As at Monday, 1,126 had been enrolled. Love news checks on the campus showed some desks in classrooms had been replaced with plastic chairs, a situation that may affect academic activities. School officials will not corroborate this observation, but say appropriate measures are being adopted to ensure the smooth running of the institution. Benjamin Chi Ampedu is assistant headmaster in charge of academics.
The school is ready, fully. Talking about food situation in the dining hall, food supply has been coming. We are not short of food, so the students are going to be fed. Parents shouldn't be worried about feeding at all. Then classroom to tomorrow morning, all the students will be taken to their classroom. Today, unfortunately, my section of the Form 1 students reported, and we have given them a place to stay. Tomorrow, fully, we shall take them to their classrooms, and classroom work will start.
At the Sakafia Islamic Senior High School, students continue to trickle in for enrollment. With the expansion of school facilities, the number of enrollment has increased. Headmaster Mohammed Shahid believes improving infrastructure will help improve education in the Zongo communities.
With regard to food, the infrastructure so far, we have not having any challenges. In fact, food is still coming. Food is still coming. You know, the first 30 years, I finished their quarter. The first quarter, they've gone, and we never had any food challenge. Food keeps on coming. As yesterday, food came. This month, food came again. So the stores is still receiving food. The guard food don't have problem. Just as the infrastructure issue. Indicating that the cafe has now become one of the best schools. All of the previous one, you don't get even 15% of the students. But here we are getting about 90% of the students reporting. And yet still, being a mission school, people from various angles, from Zongo community, you know, this is a central point of Zongo, where every Zongo person likes it because of what is happening here. With regard to academic excellence when it comes to academic work. So people are responding. Our chiefs, our imams, I also keep on making requests, which I'll soon put before the minister. I want to thank the Minister of Education so much and the Ghana Education Service.
Meanwhile, other schools in the region have similar responses in terms of enrollment. Academic activities is expected to start on Tuesday in some schools. For JoyNews, Nanaya Ochima reporting.
Now, actor and media personality Chris Atto says he was never named as a suspect in the death of his second wife, Betty Jennifer. The actor's wife was shot in the head in the parking lot of her office building on Friday, May 10, 2019. She was reportedly walking to her car when an armed man fired multiple shots at her. Speaking on Showbiz A to Z, the actor also opened up about the divorce from Nigerian actress Damilola. He says he has no regrets because it made him a better version of himself.
When your partner dies, you are a person of interest because they would talk to loved ones. But that, again, should by all means not make you a suspect. You know, we talk a lot and then we print a lot, even without verifying. I'll say it right here. I've never been a suspect in that case. I absolutely loved her.
Is the case closed? Everything done?
The police are still working on it. It's still an open case, so.
Our deepest condolence again.
Thank you.
Did the divorce hit you hard?
I believe that there is no divorce that anyone will go through that does not affect them in a hard way.
Has it made you change your notion about love?
I think that what life and love have taught me is that we're still all learning. Nobody has the answers. I personally don't wish to discuss where I am, but I will tell you that I'm a very experienced man. I will tell you that I'm probably the better version or the best version of myself or anything that I've known till now, because experience molds you.
You have a little boy from that marriage.
I do.
How's he?
He's wonderful.
How old is he now?
He's going to be 8. But he's growing. He is incredibly smart. Every second I look at him, it helps you go through the pain from that, the pain from whatever divorce, whatever. You look at him and it's like, no, we made a beautiful human being, and that person won't be here if, God doesn't make mistakes.
You mentioned your partner and manager. She discovered you?
The person I was referring to was my late partner, Betty.
Betty, okay.
Yes.
Your, we should quote unquote your second wife.
Well,
the late.
Betty is how I'd like to refer to her.
We're sorry about that. What really happened, if you want to talk about it?
A lot of things have also taught me that sharing on these things are maybe and shouldn't be my primemost objective. As much as I'd like to share, it comes back to hurt some of the people in my life and people I love. And I want to always celebrate her on any platform that asks. She was a very wonderful person. She was a very encouraging, loving woman. She was the embodiment of, if you had a dream, then it's for a reason. She used to say something to me that, what if God put this dream in your heart just to show you how great he can be? And I remember responding, I said, what if he put it there to show me how great I can be? It's the same thing. And nothing you feel in your heart is by chance. If you're feeling it, then God is saying this is what you're meant to do. That is who we're talking about. And, I'd like to just leave it alone there. I'd like to celebrate her and the wonderful things that she, shared with me in the moments we shared. And that's pretty much it.
Do you miss her?
Every day.
Well, so that's all we have for you in this package of The Pulse. My name is Blessed Sugan. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com. That's where you have the latest updates on all of our running stories. Until then, we'll see you next time. Next is Let's Talk Showbiz.